You ever notice how people walk around pretending the world is fair, pretending that life plays favorites, that justice moves on polite schedules, that everything wrong will be corrected neatly someday? They love that word someday. It keeps them calm, keeps them obedient, keeps them believing in stories that were never meant for them. But every now and then, something happens that rips that illusion apart. Something sharp, sudden, personal, something that reminds everyone that justice doesn't knock on the door wearing a halo. It doesn't arrive with choirs singing. It arrives like an unexpected visitor in the middle of the night, right when you thought you were safe. You ever notice how people spend their entire lives pretending the world bends to their will, pretending that consequences are optional, that life will accommodate their mistakes, that the rules are just suggestions meant for everyone else? They walk around with that smug little smile, thinking they've outsmarted reality itself, like they've figured out the secret to slipping past the hand that eventually writes the score. But here's the thing: justice doesn't ask for invitation. It doesn't please reply. It doesn't care if you're ready, if you're prepared, if you think you've got a plan. Justice shows up, and when it does, it doesn't knock politely. It crashes through the door with all the subtlety of a lightning strike, and suddenly, the world you've been playing with like a toy feels very, very heavy. You know what's fascinating? People act like justice is abstract, like it's some myth you tell children to keep them from misbehaving. They whisper about karma or fate or cosmic balance as if it exists somewhere far away, like a spectator in the back row of their life. But the truth is, justice is closer than you think. It's always watching, always waiting, always timing its arrival perfectly. And the people who think they're untouchable, they're the ones who get the first lesson, the ones who hear the knock loudest, because when the scales tip, it's not subtle, it's abrupt, it's dramatic, it's undeniable. And it doesn't care if you were busy, distracted, or arrogant. It doesn't care if you thought you'd escape the consequences of your choices. That's the beauty of it. That's the chaos of it, the poetry of inevitability. And yet, people still act shocked. They're stunned when what they've sown finally finds them. They try to bargain. They try to hide. They try to rationalize. They whisper excuses, explanations, apologies that come too late, too thin, too empty. Because the thing about justice is it's not negotiable. It doesn't need your permission. It doesn't care how clever you think you are, how long you've delayed, how many layers of deception you've draped over the truth. Eventually, all of it peels back. Every mask falls. Every lie bends and breaks under the pressure. Every attempt to control the narrative fails. Justice doesn't hurry. It doesn't linger. It simply comes, and when it does, you can't ignore it. 3 hours ago it reached her. Not gently. Not with ceremony. Not with a warning that she could easily sidestep. No, it arrived in the way that wakes up everyone in the room, in the way that makes people pay attention whether they want to or not. It arrived like a spotlight on a stage, exposing every corner of deceit, every shadow she thought she'd hidden behind, every move she believed was clever. And suddenly, all the control she thought she had evaporated. She learned, in a moment that's forever burned into the timeline of her life, that no one escapes reality, that no one escapes accountability, that the scales are patient but precise, and when they strike, the impact is inescapable. You see, this isn't about punishment. Oh no, people love to call it punishment, as if that frames it in a human context they can understand. But justice is more than punishment. Justice is the mirror that reflects the truth you've been avoiding. Justice is the echo of choices made long before anyone else noticed. Justice is the reminder that the universe doesn't forget, doesn't bend, doesn't lie. And the people who feel it first, the ones caught in the initial shockwave, they see the fragility of everything they assumed they could control. They see the consequences they refuse to acknowledge. They see themselves reflected in the ripple of inevitability that moves faster than any plan, sharper than any weapon, colder than any lie. And what's delicious about it, in a darkly ironic way, is how the world watches. Everyone else notices the shift. They feel the tremor even from a distance. They lean in, they whisper, they speculate. And that's the other truth. Justice has a public face, whether anyone admits it or not. its effects ripple outward. People observe. People learn. People are reminded that nothing in life is as random as it seems, that every action leaves a mark, that every choice shapes the future, often in ways we pretend not to see. And when the scales finally move, when the measure is taken and the strike lands, the audience becomes acutely aware that balance has returned. And it did so on its own schedule, not ours. Did you ever notice how people act like consequences are something that can be postponed, like they're optional, like life will let you dodge them if you just keep running, keep hiding, keep pretending? They think if they whisper the right excuses, craft the right stories, or perform enough acts of decency to offset their misdeeds, the scales will tip in their favor. It's hilarious, isn't it? The arrogance, the confidence, the way they strut through life thinking that time, or luck, or cleverness will protect them. But here's the brutal truth. Consequences don't negotiate. They don't bargain. They don't check your schedule or consider your excuses. They arrive. And when they do, it doesn't matter how prepared you think you are. And people always act so surprised. They pretend that the moment they're confronted by what they tried to avoid is somehow unfair, that it came out of nowhere. But consequences are never sudden. They're patient. They wait. They build. They gather momentum quietly while you're busy thinking you're untouchable. You see, the world doesn't forget. The universe doesn't misplace its notes. Every act, every choice, every lie, every betrayal, every injustice leaves a mark. Some people fool themselves into believing those marks disappear, that they're invisible, that no one will ever notice the trail they've left. But time has a way of drawing maps, and the footprints you think you've erased remain visible to the eyes that care to look. 3 hours ago, she found out just how precise those footprints can be. Not gently, not with a polite warning, not with a soft tap on the shoulder. No, it arrived in full force, with the clarity and inevitability that makes people sit up and pay attention. Suddenly the house of cards she thought she built was shaking violently. Suddenly every little detail she ignored, every compromise she justified, every moment she deceived herself, it all became visible, undeniable, unavoidable. And isn't it fascinating, the way people scramble when the world reminds them that actions have consequences? The way pride collapses, excuses crumble, and reality steps in, uninvited and unrelenting, exposing everything that was supposed to remain hidden. People always talk about justice, don't they? But justice is just a word people use to make chaos sound clean. The truth is, it doesn't matter what you call it. Karma, consequence, accountability, balance, whatever label you attach to it. The effect is the same. The world corrects itself whether you're ready or not, and those who ignore it, dismiss it, or think they can outrun it, well, they're always the first to feel it. It's never subtle. It's never polite. It's a lesson delivered in real time, with stakes high enough to make everyone else watch. And watching, oh, people love to watch. They lean in, they whisper, they speculate, they judge, because the spectacle of someone's reckoning is irresistible. But it's not a spectacle, it's a reminder that nothing in life is arbitrary, that what you sow will always return to you, and that timing isn't random. And here's the cruel irony, the ones who feel the first strike of consequence never expected it. They never imagined that someone or something was paying attention. They were too busy believing that the system favored them, that their charm, cunning, or luck would shield them forever. They never considered that the scales don't care about excuses, don't respond to bargaining, don't delay for anyone's convenience. They just move, and when they move, the impact is undeniable. It hits with precision. It shakes everything. It leaves a trail of clarity in its wake. And suddenly, the world isn't a safe place for arrogance anymore. Suddenly, accountability isn't optional. Suddenly, the illusion of control is exposed for what it is, a fragile, temporary, meaningless construct. And yet, the rest of the world watches, observes, learns. Because consequences, once delivered, leave more than just the target changed. They leave the environment shifted. Everyone who witnesses it absorbs the lesson, whether they like it or not. The air becomes charged. Conversations are hushed. Judgments are whispered. Observers can feel the scale of balance restored, and a subtle, undeniable truth settles in. No one is beyond reach. No action is without effect. And nothing escapes the meticulous patience of the universe. You ever notice how people act like they're untouchable, like the consequences floating around them are some distant rumor, a story told to children, a myth whispered in the shadows that has nothing to do with them? They strut through life believing their cleverness, their charm, their timing will keep them safe, as if the universe itself owes them immunity. Oh, it's amusing to watch, really. The way they stack lies and excuses like bricks in a wall, thinking it will protect them. The way they smile, confident and blind, unaware that every misstep, every betrayal, every act of selfishness is being quietly cataloged, noted, and remembered. They don't see the build-up, the quiet accumulation of inevitability. They think it's luck. They think it's coincidence. They think they're clever, but it's patience, not chance. That's been stalking them all along. And isn't it ironic how shocked they are when the reckoning comes? When the quiet notes of life finally crescendo into a moment that cannot be ignored. That's the part they never anticipate. They never see the precision of timing, the meticulous nature of consequence. Because justice, true justice, doesn't operate on our terms. It doesn't wait for consent or prepare polite invitation. It doesn't care if you're ready, if you're busy, if you think you've covered all your tracks. It simply arrives. And when it does, it is absolute. It is indisputable. And it is terrifying to anyone who spent their life thinking the rules were flexible, that morality was optional, that consequences were for everyone else. 3 hours ago, she found out exactly how unforgiving that system can be. Not with a warning, not with a gentle tap, but with the weight and clarity that leave no room for denial. The moment cut through her layers of arrogance, pride, and ignorance, leaving everything exposed. Every manipulation, every half-truth. Every moment she believed she could cheat the balance came crashing into her reality. It was sudden, yes, but precise. Timing is never accidental with forces that measure, observe, and respond. They don't rush, they don't stumble, and they certainly don't miss. When it's your moment, you feel it immediately. And in that feeling, you realize something. The world is watching, whether you intended to be noticed or not. It's fascinating, watching people try to rationalize after the fact. They stumble for explanations, they offer excuses, they beg for mercy or understanding. They try to rewrite the story, smooth the edges of truth to make it palatable. But it doesn't work. The mechanism of balance isn't swayed by excuses. It doesn't pause for sentiment. It doesn't soften for charm. The scales move, precise and unwavering, and the echo of every past action resonates in the impact. That's why the first strike of consequence feels so violent, not because it is loud, necessarily, but because it's undeniable. It confronts the individual with the clarity of everything they ignored, avoided, or underestimated. And that confrontation cannot be hidden from the world. People notice. They observe. They lean in, whisper, speculate, because witnessing inevitability is irresistible. And in that observation, everyone learns the same lesson, whether they were involved or not. The irony is delicious. Those who believed they were untouchable are often the first to feel the full weight of reality. They believed in delay, in distraction, in the illusion of control. They thought patience or charm could extend their immunity indefinitely. But nothing extends immunity against a system designed to measure, remember, and respond. Timing is precise, awareness is meticulous, and in the end, no cleverness, no denial, no strategy can outrun it. Every act, every choice, every word left unexamined becomes a thread in a tapestry of accountability. And the moment it finally strikes, the tapestry unfolds, revealing the pattern that's been forming long before anyone realized. And while the individual suffers the immediate weight, the ripple spreads further. Observers feel it, consciously or not. The energy of consequence touches those nearby. The air changes, conversations shift, people lean in or step back. The atmosphere vibrates with understanding that nothing is as arbitrary as it seems, the action carry echoes, that morality, deceit, and consequence are intertwined in ways that will always find their target. And that is the subtle brilliance of it. The system does not need to announce itself. It does not need applause. It does not need witnesses. Yet, everyone becomes a witness anyway, because the impact is undeniable, visible, and impossible to ignore. You ever notice how people live as if life owes them favors? As if the rules, the consequences, the balance of things somehow bend to their convenience. They move through the world with arrogance, thinking every misstep, every slight, every betrayal will slip by unnoticed, like some cosmic loophole has been granted exclusively to them. They smile, they charm, they manipulate, they convince themselves they're untouchable. And it's beautiful in a tragic kind of way, isn't it? Because all that confidence, all that swagger is built on illusion. Every word they've twisted, every corner they've cut, every injustice they've ignored, it doesn't vanish. It accumulates, it waits. And the universe, with a patience they cannot comprehend, remembers everything. You see, justice isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. No, it creeps, it calculates, it observes. It records each misdeed, each act of deceit, each betrayal. It keeps meticulous accounts while the world continues to hum, oblivious to the slow but steady gathering of inevitability. And oh, isn't it deliciously ironic how the very people who think they're beyond reach are often the first to feel the weight. They never see it coming. They never anticipate the precision. They believe timing is random. They believe consequences delayed. They believe the rules don't apply to them. But timing isn't random. Consequence isn't delayed forever. And the scales, oh, the scales don't forget. 3 hours ago, she learned this truth in the most unavoidable way. Not subtly, not gently, not with any chance of evasion. The moment struck with clarity, precision, and undeniable force. Every lie she had relied on, every manipulation she thought would go unnoticed, every moment she deceived herself or others, it all converged in that instant. And the look of shock, the scramble, the sudden awareness that she could no longer escape reality. Oh, it's a spectacle, isn't it? And yet, it's not meant for show. It's meant for recognition. Recognition that the universe doesn't bend, doesn't negotiate, and doesn't forget. It's meant for understanding that nothing in life is truly hidden, that every act, every choice, every intention leaves a trace. And when the moment arrives, those traces align with the inevitability of balance. And people always react in the most predictable ways. They stammer. They stumble for explanation. They craft excuses that are too thin, too late, too weak to matter. They plead for understanding, beg for mercy, search desperately for loopholes that do not exist. And the beauty of it is that none of it works. Justice, real justice, is indifferent. It doesn't pause for charm or distraction. It doesn't soften for sentimentality. It doesn't flinch for fear. It simply arrives, and when it does, the world takes notice, and those who witness it, consciously or unconsciously, feel the ripple. They lean in, they whisper, they speculate. They measure their own lives against the spectacle of inevitability unfolding before them, and suddenly they understand something they had avoided knowing. The world has memory, and the consequences of inaction or malice are precise, unavoidable, and impartial. The timing, oh, the timing is exquisite, not early, not late, but exactly when it is meant to strike. And the targets, often those who least expect it, feel it with full force. There's no preparation that can withstand it, no planning that can circumvent it, no arrogance that can deflect it. The mechanisms of cause and effect, the meticulous records of action and choice, the invisible ledger that watches every step. They do not falter, they do not waver, they do not err, and suddenly all the certainty a person clung to evaporates. The comfort of control, the illusion of immunity, the facade of superiority, it all crumbles under the weight of what cannot be avoided. And while she endures the immediate weight, the effect spreads outward. Everyone nearby feels it, senses it, reacts to it. The air shifts. Conversations are subdued. Observers lean closer, whisper, speculate, and measure their own behavior against what they see. The lesson travels faster than any words can, echoing in the minds of all who witness it. Actions have consequences. Deception has a price. Arrogance has a reckoning. And the subtle brilliance of it is that the system doesn't need witnesses, applause, or validation to function, but everyone becomes one anyway, because the inevitability of justice is unmistakable, precise, and impossible to ignore. You ever notice how people get comfortable pretending the rules don't apply to them? How they walk around thinking their cleverness, their charm, their ability to manipulate situations will keep them untouchable. It's funny, isn't it? The confidence, the arrogance, the belief that time or luck or distraction will shield them from the consequences of their actions. They stack lies like bricks, cover their tracks with careful steps, and smile at anyone who questions them. And while they do, the universe is quietly taking notes. Every small deception, every slight injustice, every betrayal is being recorded, cataloged, and remembered. It doesn't rush, doesn't panic, doesn't miscalculate. It waits, patient, precise, observant. And the people who believe they are beyond reach are the ones who get the first lesson, the first undeniable proof that nothing escapes consequence. 3 hours ago, she learned exactly what it means to be caught by the weight of reality. Not gradually, not with a warning, not with an opportunity to retreat or negotiate, but with precision. Every choice, every lie, every attempt to evade the natural balance of things came together in a single, undeniable moment. And suddenly the world she had believed she controlled was exposed for what it was: fragile, imperfect, entirely subject to forces she had ignored. And isn't it fascinating how people react when they are faced with undeniable truth? Panic, confusion, desperation. They scramble to explain, to justify, to rewrite history in ways that feel safer, kinder, less certain. They try to bargain with forces that don't negotiate, to reason with outcome, that don't need reasoning, to apologize for events that cannot be undone. But all of it is too late. Timing is precise. The system does not bend. The scales move, whether she's ready or not, whether anyone believes in them or not. And people always act shocked. They whisper about luck, chance, coincidences, cosmic misfortune, as if the universe is fallible, as if they are exceptions to its laws. But the truth is simple. The system doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't require witnesses. It doesn't demand understanding. It simply operates. It corrects. It balances. It delivers outcomes that have been building long before anyone realized. And the most beautiful part? The inevitability. The certainty, the way that every action, every slight, every act of avoidance or deception converges into a moment of clarity that cannot be denied. That is the poetry of consequence, the dark, ironic music that plays for those who thought they were immune. And it's not just the target who feels it. Oh no, the ripples spread outward. Everyone nearby senses the shift. Conversations change. Energy shifts. Observers lean in, whisper, speculate, and measure their own lives against the spectacle unfolding. The lesson travels faster than words. It lands on the minds of all who witness it, whether they were involved or not. A reminder that no one is exempt, that every choice matters, that every action has weight. And the one who is struck first, the one who feels the immediate impact, often feels it the strongest, because the timing is perfect, deliberate, precise. There is no escape, no loophole, no clever trick that can avoid the reality that arrives exactly when it must. And isn't it funny how people try to hide from it? How they seek distraction, comfort, illusions of control. They whisper, they rationalize, they pretend it doesn't exist. But it exists, always, patient, precise, observant, watching, waiting. And when the moment comes, when the scales finally tip, the weight lands exactly where it should. It's not punishment. It's recognition. Recognition of truth, of action, of choice. And in that recognition, the facade shatters. Masks fall. Pretenses crumble. Pride collapses. And the world around them shifts as everyone else watches, witnesses, learns, and remembers that nothing, absolutely nothing, escaped the quiet, inevitable power of consequence. You ever notice how people live in this illusion that life can be negotiated with, that the rules, the consequences, the scales of fairness can be bent, twisted, or delayed if you're clever enough, charming enough, careful enough? They walk around thinking the universe owes them favors, thinking their mistakes are minor, thinking their arrogance or lies or manipulations will never be touched by reality. Oh, it's beautiful in a dark, ironic way, the confidence, the sense of invincibility. They stack deception like bricks, hide their tracks with careful steps, and laugh at anyone who questions them. And while they do, the universe is quiet, watching, remembering, patient. Every small injustice, every ignored responsibility, every dishonest act is logged, recorded, cataloged in ways they will never anticipate. And the ones who believe they are untouchable, they are always the first to feel the full weight. 3 hours ago, she felt that weight, not subtly, not as a warning, not as a chance to retreat or bargain. No, it struck with precision, unyielding, absolute. Every choice, every lie, every act of evasion, every denial of truth collided in a single, undeniable moment. And suddenly the house of illusions she had built collapsed around her. Every manipulation, every half-truth, every carefully constructed lie was exposed, undeniable, unignorable. And isn't it fascinating the way people react in that moment? Panic, confusion, desperation. They scramble for explanations, for excuses, for ways to rewrite the past in a way that feels safer, softer, less accountable. They plead, they rationalize, they attempt to charm the consequences away, but none of it works. Timing is precise. The scales move when they must, whether she is ready or not, whether anyone believes in them or not. People always act shocked, don't they? They whisper about luck, chance, coincidence, divine mistake, as if the universe makes errors or they are somehow exempt. But the truth is brutal in its simplicity. The system doesn't need to justify itself. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't need approval. It simply operates. It balances. It delivers outcomes that have been quietly building long before anyone noticed, long before anyone expected. And the most remarkable part? The inevitability. The absolute certainty. Every action, every deception, every betrayal, every ignored responsibility converges into a moment of undeniable clarity. That is the dark poetry of consequence, the kind of music that plays for those who believe themselves invincible. And it's not just the one struck who feels it. The ripples spread outward, touching everyone nearby. Observers notice. Conversations shift. Energy shifts. People lean in, whisper, speculate, measure their own actions against what they witness. The lesson spreads faster than any words, landing in minds and hearts alike. No one is beyond reach. No action is without consequence. No deception escapes observation. And the person struck first often feels it the most, because the timing is deliberate, precise, perfect. There is no loophole, no clever trick, no charm that can alter the course. Every choice matters. Every act has weight, and that weight lands exactly where it should, with no mercy, no negotiation, no reprieve. And isn't it exquisite, in a dark sense, how people try to run from it, how they seek distraction, comfort, illusions of safety, as if looking away can erase the truth. But truth exists, consequence exists, observation exists. They are patient, precise, and relentless, waiting, watching. And when the moment comes, when the scales tip, when the reckoning strikes, it is absolute. It is clarity. It is recognition, not punishment, not revenge, not theatrics, but acknowledgement. Recognition of choices, recognition of responsibility, recognition of the truth that cannot be avoided. And in that recognition, masks crumble, pride collapses, deception falls away, leaving only the reality of what has been done and what must be faced, while the world always watches, observes, and remembers. You ever notice how people act like they're invisible to the consequences of their actions? Like the world, the universe, reality itself will bend to their whims, their cleverness, their timing. They walk around thinking their lies, their manipulations, their arrogance are somehow immune to the natural order of things. And it's beautiful, isn't it, in a bitter, dark way, watching the confidence, the smugness, the belief that the rules don't apply to them. They smile at the world, charm it, convince themselves it's all under control, that nothing will touch them. And while they do, the universe is quiet, patient, observant. Every deception, every betrayal, every act of selfishness is logged, remembered, cataloged. It doesn't rush. It doesn't stumble. It doesn't err. And when the moment comes, the people who believed they were untouchable are always the first to feel it. 3 hours ago, she felt it. Not gently, not as a warning, not as a chance to hide or escape, but with precision, absolute clarity, unavoidable. Every choice, every lie, every small act of avoidance and self-deception collided into a single, undeniable moment. And suddenly the world she thought she controlled fell apart. Every manipulation, every half-truth, every careful construction of deceit was exposed. And isn't it fascinating the way people react in that instant? Panic, confusion, desperation. They scramble for explanations, for excuses, for ways to rewrite history, for ways to convince themselves that none of this could possibly be happening. They plead. They rationalize. They try to charm, to distract, to negotiate with forces that do not negotiate. And it doesn't work. Timing is precise. The scales move when they must, whether she is ready or not. Whether anyone believes in them or not. People always act surprised, don't they? Whisper about luck, coincidence, divine error, as if the universe makes mistakes, or they are exception. But the truth is simple, brutal, and inevitable. The system doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't pause for your comfort. It simply operates. It balances. It delivers outcomes that have been quietly accumulating long before anyone noticed, long before anyone expected. And the most delicious part, the inevitability, the certainty. Every act, every lie, every betrayal, every evasion converges into a moment of undeniable clarity. That is the dark poetry of consequence, the music that plays for those who believe themselves untouchable, the precision that humbles even the most arrogant. And it's not just the person caught who feels the impact. The ripples spread outward, touching everyone nearby. Observers notice. Conversations shift. Energy shifts. People lean in, whisper, speculate, measure their own actions against what they witness. The lesson travels faster than any words, landing in minds and hearts alike. No one is beyond reach. No action is without effect. No deception goes unnoticed. The person struck first often feels it the most, because the timing is deliberate, precise, perfect. There is no loophole, no clever trick, no charm that can alter the course. Every choice matters. Every act carries weight, and that weight lands exactly where it should, with no mercy, no negotiation, no reprieve. And isn't it delicious, in a dark sense, the way people try to run from it? They seek distraction, comfort, illusions of control, thinking that looking away or pretending it isn't real will erase the impact. But it exists. Truth exists. Consequence exists. Observation exists. They are patient, precise, relentless, waiting, watching. And when the moment comes, when the scales tip, when the reckoning strikes, it is absolute, not punishment, not revenge, not theatrics, recognition. Recognition of choices, recognition of responsibility, recognition of truth that cannot be ignored. Masks crumble, pride collapses, deception falls away. Reality asserts itself. And the world watches, always watching, taking note, remembering.